Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great holiday show for you. Right next to me is Mr. Dana Canales, who's back to co-host again. Hey Dana, welcome back. And then
Thanks,
over
Paul.
in the wings, John Cornett is ready to bring you a song. How you doing, John?
Hey, I'm good, Paul. I'm over here.
There it is. We're a little short-handed. Everybody's off for the holiday season. But anyway, we've got our hemp news segment. We'll be taking phone calls and we'll be back in just a moment. But we're going to bring on our infamous and tiring dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
Our first hemp news tonight is from London, England, in the United Kingdom. The daily administration of CBD, or cannabidiol, as an adjunctive therapy mitigates psychotic symptoms in schizophrenia, according to clinical trial data published in the American Journal of Psychiatry. British researchers assessed the adjunctive use of CBD compared to placebo over a 6-week period in a randomized trial of 88 schizophrenic patients. Participants ingested 1,000 milligrams of the plant-derived CBD per day in addition to their conventional medications. Subjects in the CBD treatment group had lower levels of positive psychotic symptoms and were more likely to have been rated as improved and as not severely unwell by the treating clinician. At the conclusion of the trial, CBD administration was also associated with improvements in cognitive performance and the level of overall functioning, although these changes did not reach statistical significance. The authors wrote, quote, "These findings suggest that CBD has beneficial effects in patients with schizophrenia. As CBD's effects do not appear to depend on dopamine receptor antagonism, this agent may represent a new class of treatment for the disorder," end quote. Results of a prior clinical trial published in the journal Translational Psychiatry determined that CBD is superior to emulsipride, a potent antipsychotic agent in mitigating psychotic symptoms in schizophrenic patients. The full text of this study, Cannabidiol, CBD is an adjunctive therapy in schizophrenia, a multicenter randomized controlled trial, appears in the American Journal of Psychiatry. And it's strange. My experience is that most patients with schizophrenia find cannabis to be helpful, but a small subset, about 1 out of 100 people with propensity to schizophrenia, or about 1 out of 1,000 people in the general population, THC seems to induce a psychotic reaction. So apparently CBD has the exact opposite effect. So somehow the cannabinoids are related to schizophrenia. Our next story is from Ann Arbor, Michigan, the home of the University of Michigan. I'll be there in April for the Hash Bash for the first time. I'm looking forward to that. Self-reported rates of past year marijuana use by teens increased 1.3% from 2016 to 2017, but remain well below past year's levels, according to survey data released by the University of Michigan's annual Monitoring the Future report. The authors wrote, quote, "When combining these responses in all 3 grades, 8th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade, data suggests past year marijuana use is slightly up from 23.9% from 22.6% last year, but are similar to 2015 rates," end quote, summarized the U.S. National Institute on Drug Abuse, which funds the survey. Since 2012, when Colorado and Washington became the first two states to regulate the adult use and sale of cannabis, overall rates of teen use nationwide have generally fallen, continuing a trend that began in the mid-1990s. Prior studies have reported that adolescents are less likely to abuse cannabis and also are less likely to gain access to it today than they were a decade ago. State-specific data from legalization states, including Oregon, Colorado, and Washington, indicate that teen marijuana use in our jurisdictions has either remained stable or has declined following the enactment of adult use regulations. Our last story tonight is from Washington, D.C. A policy guidance update issued by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs encourages greater communication about cannabis between doctors and veterans, but continues to forbid physicians at federal veterans hospitals and clinics from explicitly recommending it as a therapeutic option in states where the substance is legal. The updated directive urges VA doctors to foster discussions with veterans about cannabis use due to its clinical relevance to the patient care. It also affirms that veterans must not be denied Veteran Health Administration services solely for participating in state-approved marijuana programs. However, the updated directive maintains that providers are prohibited from completing forms or registering veterans for participation in state-approved medical marijuana programs. The survey data compiled by the American Legion in November reports that more than 1 in 5 military veterans engage in the use of cannabis for medical purposes. In a press statement issued by the American Legion, the organization said that the new directive will help encourage veterans using medical cannabis to more openly and fully discuss their healthcare options with VA medical providers, with full reassurance that their VA benefits remain secure. The organization further reiterated its official position, calling on the federal government to remove cannabis from Schedule I of the Controlled Substances Act to enable safe and efficient drug development research. And I'm a disabled veteran. I know John over here is a veteran as well. And just on that note, John's ready to play a song. Hey, John.
Hey, Paul. Hey, you reminded me back in the days when I lost my insurance and I ended up at the VA because they will help indigent veterans who don't have insurance, thank God.
That's what I'm depending on right now. I don't have any insurance except the VA. Well, the thing is, as a 30% disabled veteran, I am entitled to full health coverage with no copays because I am
awesome.
a service-connected disability.
Right. Well, the point I wanted to make, though, was when I used to go there it was about a year, maybe a couple years, right? The first question they would ask me is, "Do you use a medical cannabis or medical?"
Really?
They call it medical marijuana.
What year was that?
Because they wanted to, if I had said that, they could say, "Get lost."
When was that?
That was back in 2003, 2004.
Yeah, they were a lot more strict then.
Oh my
they
God,
definitely were.
And all they want, and of course, I would have been sober in AA
At
for
the same
20
time.
years. So literally, I'd been sober in AA for 20 years. Well, not that long at that point. I stopped being sober in AA in 2006 when I met you guys and had a safe place to come use my cannabis medicine.
All right.
Truthfully, cannabis saved my life too. And I would like to dedicate this song to Brother Clay Pierce, who, God bless his heart, he is a disabled man who is being imprisoned down in El Salvador. We didn't talk about it much tonight, but I can tell you this.
We'll
There's
be
help.
talking about it on the air.
Yes, sir. Well, I know that because of you, Paul, the Calvary is on the way. Thank you. God bless you, brother. God bless you, Clay. Here it goes. Okay. God had long hair and a goatee and his eyes were pretty glazed. And he looked spaced out. Would you buy his story? Would you believe he had an eye infection? And yeah, God looks baked. And yeah, God smells good. Yeah. What if God smoked cannabis, hooked up on like some of us, drove a tie-dyed microbus, and he subscribes to Rolling Stone? If God made this place In the beginning, did he plant any seeds? Or did he put them there for Adam and Eve, so they'd be hungry for the apple that the snake was always offering? And yeah, God rolls great. And yeah, God smells good. And yeah. What if God smokes cannabis? Do you suppose he had a buzz when he made the platypus? When he created both our homes? Does he like Pearl Jam or the Stones? And do you think he rolls his own up there in heaven on his throne? And when the saints go marching home, maybe he sits and smokes a bowl. And when the saints go marching home, maybe he sits and smokes a bowl. Happy holidays. Get home safe, Clay.
Thank you, John. I like that. Have you played that on the show? You haven't played it recently.
No, I haven't played that on the show ever. No.
Yeah, I heard it. I don't recall you playing it, but that was a good rendition. I like that.
Excellent.
How you doing, Dana?
Doing great. Thanks for having me back.
Hey, well, thanks for being back. It's good to see you here. And I just got back from El Salvador, as you know, going down to see our friend Clay Pierce, who has volunteered on this show for about 15 years.
Yeah.
He went with me on a speaking engagement about 13 months ago down to Colombia, and fell in love with Colombia. And as he sold his home and was moving to Colombia, but he apparently had 38 grams of marijuana in his suitcase that he was taking with him. Now, cannabis grows everywhere in Colombia.
Yeah,
there's no reason to take any with you. But he did, and he was transiting through the El Salvador airport in San Salvador, the capital, or near San Salvador. And they searched his bag and confronted him and interrogated him for 2 days and then arrested him. And so El Salvador has among the worst laws in the world, and definitely the worst laws for marijuana in the Western Hemisphere. They equate marijuana with heroin. So where 38 grams of cannabis for Clay, because he's a severely disabled guy who's able to get off opiates because of using cannabis, like John and many other people.
Pretty much
like
the
you.
only thing that
Yeah.
works for him.
Yeah, and so that for him was maybe a week's supply.
Yeah.
You know, but if he had 38 grams of heroin, that would supply thousands of people.
No
You know, but the law in El Salvador is that they are the same. So Clay is actually subject at the worst penalty, even though Clay's never been arrested in the United States and never involved in selling cannabis at all. He's just a disabled guy. He was in a severe motorcycle accident when he was a young man.
Yeah.
And anyone who's seen his legs can clearly see that they've been torn up.
Excuse me.
But he is being held now for about 7 weeks in one of the worst prisons in the world. And he called me. After 3 days, they let him have access to a phone. We've worked with some activists there, and I was blessed enough to be able to go down and visit him this week. I contacted the U.S. Embassy immediately that day, and then I recently asked them to arrange a visit for him, and they did. And so a couple of days before I went, I got a certificate from the director of prisons that allowed me to go in and visit. And I think that kind of pulled some strings, or at least I hope they did. But he is in hellish conditions and not allowed any of his medicines that he was using. And they're treating him like a psychiatric patient, even though he'd never been a psychiatric patient. You know, I know I went there and I met with his lawyers and went to the U.S. Embassy on Wednesday morning, and then on Wednesday afternoon I went to the prison and visited him. They wouldn't allow me to take in any phone calls. In fact, everyone here in the studio put together letters and notes, and we took a picture here on the set to give to Clay. But they will not allow him to have a single scrap of newspaper, of anything. He can't have a book, he can't have a letter, he can't have anything. Wow. And so also in El Salvador, if your family doesn't come and put money on the books, you just get a little bit of beans and rice every day. And he says that the people there give him less, a lot less than other people get. And he has to go to the end of the line and gets just the slop that's left over at the end. And so they took all of his money that he had with him, and so he has no money. So while I was there, I was able to put $200 on his books. But he hasn't called anyone since then. That was Wednesday afternoon. If money was on his books, he should be able to make phone calls, and no one's gotten any phone calls from him. So I don't think he has access to that money yet. But on Thursday morning, we had a press conference, and El Salvador is still a very dangerous country. It has the highest murder rate in the world, even higher than the United States.
Scary.
And so drug gangs are very powerful in some neighborhoods there. I took some pictures, and some people told me I was risking my life by taking pictures outside the prison and other things, and I didn't think so. I thought people are cautious because the murder rate's so high. You know, they need to be cautious. But there's a lot of very safe areas in El Salvador, and El Salvador is incredibly beautiful. So we had this press conference, and here's this newspaper article. You can see I'm with two of Clay's lawyers there, and that says that for $43 of marijuana, he is being held for up to 20 years in prison. So he is facing, at a worst, 20 years in prison. And there are people with similar amounts of cannabis in prison for 8 years in El Salvador. It's not uncommon. 20 years. And here's another news article. Our press conference was very, very successful. If you look at that, you can actually see that they have a copy of me on the cover of the Oregon Leaf there. There it is. And it brings that in, and they talk about him volunteering on our show. And then coincidentally, or perhaps providentially, there's another inset from that other newspaper article. The director of the drug police in El Salvador, who's a very powerful and, according to the lawyers that are working for Clay, a very dangerous man. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I was told by the lawyers.
Seems easy to believe.
Is that he just happened to have a press conference that afternoon. So we had our press conference in the morning. Then the biggest network in El Salvador, you know, it's a small country, 6 million people. It has 3 television stations in this network across El Salvador. And they interviewed us, and then they went and asked this drug czar of El Salvador, I guess, about the case, and he's claimed he didn't know. We actually have that video, and I think the television network there put it on YouTube, and our producer and director in the studio said perhaps YouTube can do subtitles on it, or a rough version of subtitles. So we probably will be running that video here in a few minutes. I don't know. We'll see when it's ready to go.
Well, it certainly sounds like extremely barbaric conditions that he's having to try to survive through, especially with a degrading medical condition.
And they're treating him like a psychiatric patient. So I got to meet with him for about an hour, and he said that the psychiatric medications make it where he can't sleep, and he has a ringing in his ears that sounds like electricity, and that because they're feeding him in this slop, he's sick and has diarrhea, and they are basically torturing him.
Yeah.
You know,
it's what it
forced
amounts
psychiatric treatment, you know, is what it really amounts to. We do have this YouTube video with a rough set of subtitles, so we're going to run that. We'll be right back. This is from the El Salvador Television Network.
Él es Clay Pierce, un ciudadano norteamericano de 57 años que viajaba de Colombia hacia Oregon, Estados Unidos, el pasado 1 de noviembre. Al hacer escala en El Salvador, inició la peor experiencia de su vida.
Vino aquí el 1 de noviembre de este año. El policía de la DAN le pregunta al señor Pierce, ¿esta es su maleta? Sí. ¿Lleva marihuana usted aquí? Sí. ¿Puede sacarla? Sí. ¿Le enseña? Ningún problema, él siempre colabora.
La razón por la que llevaba la marihuana es porque forma parte de sus medicinas, ya que usar la droga para este fin es legal en su estado de origen. Al momento de su captura presentó el permiso de portación, pero fue ignorado por las autoridades.
El delito es en contra de la salud pública. Y no teniendo él la mínima intención de ingresar al país, ¿cuál iba a ser la afectación a la salud pública?
Actualmente se encuentra recluido en el penal de Mariona, en donde su estadía es un infierno, según sus abogados.
Duerme en el concreto, duerme en el suelo, no tiene ninguna sábana, no tiene ningún colchón. Incluso ha tenido maltratos muy claros de parte de algunos guardias, en los cuales ni siquiera lo dejan usar el tiempo adecuado para sus necesidades básicas.
El representante de la asociación a la que pertenece Clay asegura que había viajado a Colombia para asesorar a las comunidades indígenas sobre el uso de la marihuana como opción medicinal, ya que no existe prohibición en ese país para ello. Lamenta que un acto altruista tuviera este desenlace.
Nosotros nos encontramos bastante tristes por la situación que está viviendo el señor Pierce aquí en El Salvador, y mucha gente en Estados Unidos y en Colombia lo están extrañando.
El director de centros penales dijo desconocer la situación del estadounidense.
Yo no le puedo confirmar si realmente la persona en este momento es víctima del bullying, ¿verdad? Por no hablar el idioma. Pero vamos a verificar eso.
Los abogados afirmaron que en el proceso son respaldados por la Embajada de los Estados Unidos y que harán todo lo necesario para que a Clay no se le violen sus derechos.
Una de las acciones será solicitar una audiencia especial de revisión de medidas en el Juzgado de Instrucción de San Luis Talpa, que es donde se ventila el caso. Lorena Miranda, Telenoticias 21.
Well, I think those subtitles were pretty well. I don't know if they ran the audio in there, but for the Spanish speakers out there, they could understand that.
Yeah.
So we're hopeful that, in fact, just today, his lawyers filed a document, in court to try to get a special hearing for him. Right now, he's scheduled to go into court on the 21st of February, which is another 7 weeks out. But they filed documents today to have a special hearing, and hopefully, right now they're closed until next year. What they do is today was their last day of business, and they're off all next week. And so, and we haven't heard from him since I put that money on his books, and even though he should have access to that. And that's how you eat there. If you don't get the rice and beans,
Right.
and then, which obviously caused him to get sick, then on a regular basis. And he's been degraded because of that, and treated subhumanly because of that, and actually basically tortured while using the restroom and bothered by both in this prison. The gang is in charge, so the real boss is the person in your cell. Some guy is the boss, and so and they don't like him. He's the only gringo out of 8,000 people in this jail, and this jail was only made for 1,000 people.
Holy moly!
And so there's 8,000 people in it.
That's
crazy. Yeah, it is kind of crazy. Well, listen, we are live tonight. It's the 22nd of December. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can call us at that number on your screen. It's 503-673-8579. This is the 918th show for Cannabis Common Sense, and since 1996, and we are taking your calls live. So if you want to ask us a question, you can call in at 503-673-8579. We're also streaming on Facebook, so if you have friends out there and you want them to watch, you can tell them tune in to facebook.com/restorehemp. That's facebook.com/restorehemp. And if they can watch live videos. I can't watch live videos on Facebook on my phone because I refuse to put their app on my phone because it gives them the ability to listen to everything you say all the time.
Right.
And it's strange when you start getting ads based on what you happen to be saying around your phone.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's
kind of spooky.
It's a brave new world, that's for sure.
However, the streaming on Facebook is pretty awesome. It's a lot of people.
We had 5,000
so.
people watching. I'm not sure how many people will be watching tonight. I think 200 at a time and 5,000 throughout the show.
Yeah.
So there it is. And so for the next 3 weeks, though, we will not have a live show. For the next 3 weeks, we'll have a pre-recorded show. We're still going to produce new shows, but the studio's closed for a couple of weeks here. But we'll be back in mid-January with more live shows. We typically do about 45 live shows a year. So we're live most of the time.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, most of the time
regular
we are.
as clockwork.
Now, you've been volunteering on the show for many, many years. When did you first? It's been
2000 was my first year.
So 17 years now.
17 years, yeah.
And you worked in the control room with Clay. Clay was in there. What was your position mainly when you were in the...
we've kind of traded positions off in there. We both started on cameras initially.
Everybody starts on the cameras.
And then we worked into the control room, and I think I was the first to work on the switchboard that switches the camera,
from different angles?
From which camera you're
seeing. We actually have 5 cameras in here. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, 5. We've got a real good exposure for such a small, show. It's a great studio.
It's a small show, but it's a huge studio, and they're always upgrading it.
Yeah.
So we're blessed to have Open Signal is their new name, but they retain Portland Community Media.
They take good care of us here. So
when it started, it was Portland Cable Access, or when I started,
right.
I think that was the name. It's so long ago.
That's what I'm going to call it forever.
It's been 21 plus years. We're working on our 22nd year now. So I took Clay with me down to Colombia to this event in Medellin, Colombia. Expo MediWeed, and last year 2016 was actually the first year they had that, and Clay came along, and we also took Elvie Masica, and Elvie Masica is one of 3 people left in the United States who gets medical marijuana from the federal government, and this program was discontinued in 1991 by George Herbert Walker Bush I, and she receives 300 pre-rolled joints per month. The equivalent of 6 pounds of marijuana a year,
right.
Which, here in Oregon, we get 1.5 pounds, which seems pretty liberal, but her federal cannabis is swag. It's no good.
Dirt weed.
Yeah, it smells like the old Mexican. Yeah. But anyway, Clay went and helped her because she's blind from her glaucoma, and he assisted her on that trip. We took a 3-week trip in 2016. We spent several days, about 6 days in Medellin, Colombia, which is a beautiful city. And then we drove through the mountains to Cali, and then we drove up into the Cauca and visited and toured the cannabis growing area, where cannabis is just growing everywhere.
Yeah, the valleys. The pictures were awesome.
They light up the mountainsides at night there, because in Colombia on the equator, it's always a 12-hour day, 12-hour night, which makes marijuana flower. So they light up the cannabis for 4 or 5 hours after sunset
to make
it keep vegetating, so it gets bigger. And so it's strange to see those hills all lit up with these little rectangles on the sides of these big cliffs. It reminds me of Hawaii, like Oahu or other places that are volcanic and highly eroded.
Very
like
tropical.
The Hawaiian, it's very, very tropical. But anyway, he fell in love with the area, and he moved there and was helping the Native American Nasa people in the Cauca region. And he came back here, as you know, and sold off everything he had.
Everything.
And was going back there. He was completely legal here in Oregon for up to 1.5 pounds.
Right.
He was completely legal in Colombia for like 5 pounds. And he had no intention of going to Colombia. It just happened to be the cheapest ticket. To go to El Salvador.
Right.
It happened to be the cheapest ticket. He had no knowledge of the El Salvadoran law. To be honest, neither did I. It's the smallest country in Central America. So I've never heard of a drug search in a transit situation.
Me
You know,
either.
he wasn't going through customs. He wasn't leaving the airport. It's just a real tragedy, and we feel great empathy for our friend who's in this awful situation. Well, we are taking live phone calls, and I think we have a caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Yes, hi. I'm a veteran also,
Uh-huh.
and
Thank you.
I suffer from PTSD.
Sure. Well, cannabis
And
is
to
the
me,
perfect medicine for that.
is
I
the
mean, I don't
cure.
have dreams when I use cannabis.
But what I was going to say is, do you know any good lawyers that will help me prove to the VA that I have PTSD? Like, I'm getting 10%.
Where are you at?
I'm in Oregon.
Okay, yeah, I do. I'll tell you what, give our office a call at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. The number there on your screen. Leave your name and number. You know, I know a number of lawyers who help people in your situation, and so I recently had my disability increased as well.
Right.
I didn't have to get legal assistance for that, fortunately, but
Right.
mine wasn't for PTSD, and so I am fortunately not really been through too many traumatic experiences, so I'm blessed that way. But I can understand that a lot of people, especially people in the military, are put through very traumatic situations.
Okay.
Well, I just live with it, but I mean, I will call and you know, I just like to say, keep up the good work and praise
All
for
right.
Clay. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you too. Thanks for calling. Yeah, if you have any of those conditions there on your screen, you can get a medical marijuana card just about anywhere in the United States, and we have doctors that we can refer you to. If you need a referral, give us a call at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. Actually, I've helped over 270,000 Americans get their medical marijuana permits through clinics that I started back in 1999. And I have this banner turned around here because I'm in a legal battle with an Israeli-Canadian oil company called Adira Energy. That's A-D-I-R-A. And so they actually, we've got a battle in court, and they have a court order that says that they theoretically own this. Even though they never paid me a penny, I will win in the end and never surrender to the forces of evil. And so maybe this is the time to pop up that little inset from the El Salvadoran newspaper of the Oregon Leaf magazine. But we have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Hey, how are you?
Fine.
I can hear you, but we've got some kind of sound problem. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, well, we had a little issue. Call back. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at 503-673-8579. Not that number on your screen, because that's our office, and no one's there right now. But you can call us at, there it is, 503-673-8579, which is supposed to just be a temporary number. Now, we do have a studio audience. When we're back here in January, you're welcome to come down and join us in the studio. And Judy is at the microphone. I think she's got something to say. Go right ahead, Judy.
I gathered myself after seeing the films of Clay. Clay, we love you. We love you. We love you. We love you. And everybody's praying for you and doing everything that we can think of.
And I tried to relate that to him while I was there for that one short hour, but he is in kind of a living hell right now, and he isn't getting any messages. They wouldn't allow us to give him his cards or anything. But people ask me, how's Clay? Is he okay? Clay is doing very poorly, and he is not okay. He needs the prayers. I tried to tell him that, and he's facing up to 20 years in prison for a minor amount of marijuana that was completely legal in Oregon and where he was going to in Colombia. So, but I told him about you contacting Amnesty International, and I talked to the lawyers there about that as well, and they're completely supportive of having Amnesty International intervene in this case.
Yeah, please, dear God. You know, I was hoping maybe just for a minute or two, you guys talk about travel. I've traveled quite a bit, not so much as a medical marijuana patient, but I've traveled quite a bit, and people may not realize.
If you're going to carry cannabis, you should be very, very careful.
You should always be careful. Whatever country you are going, not just the country you're going to, but whatever countries
obviously
you are
the ones you're transiting through, which is something that I haven't really paid that close attention to, is the ones you're transiting through. But Clay's example is change that for sure.
Even countries that are entirely friendly and generally very easy for us, for as Americans to travel in, you know, obeying their laws is going to be is an unwavering situation.
That's true.
Yeah, you have got to do it, and you can find yourself. I mean, I have heard that even French prisons are a horror, but of course at this point,
no jail is fun.
No,
I don't think even the Dutch jails where you can legally smoke marijuana are no fun.
But many places in the world, not many places in the world are as absolutely hideous as El Salvador and what Clay is in.
Yeah.
But many places
that was one thing. I as soon as that happened, let me just talk to you. When Clay was first incarcerated, I just did a quick search on Google, El Salvador jails, and the prison he is at popped up with articles in The Guardian and the Daily Mail saying it's the worst prison in the world and the gangs are in control of it. And the guards put the gangs in control of the prison there. So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. But we have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello, hi.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about this Clay situation.
Yeah, you know, he's a good friend of ours, and it kind of educates us about, you know, even though we've started to legalize marijuana here in Oregon, and there are marijuana stores all over the state, there are still some severe consequences if you don't follow the rules and watch yourself. It's unfortunate that he did that, but when I went to visit him, I wasn't there to berate him at all about what he'd done. I just was there to try to support him and brighten his spirits.
Exactly. Well, a couple things. One is, I think one of the most important aspects of the legislative, process is, like we have here in Oregon, having the home grow. I mean, I think that's important for the soul of a society, where every household can grow their own cannabis.
Right.
That's a very
in Washington State. They don't have that right. They can't grow their own, which to me just seems evil.
Yeah.
Many people rely on the biblical text in Genesis where it says that God has given us every seed-bearing herb on earth and to use as food. And so
absolutely.
It's been recognized. You can find cannabis at the roots of many different religions. The Buddha is said to have eaten one hemp seed a day. The anointing oil of Christ, just look up cannabism, as our friend Judy here was talking about. Just look up that cannabism, and it's the main ingredient in the anointing oil of Christ, and Christ means the anointed one. But did you have more to say?
Oh, yeah. Well, as far as Oregon, what's the? I mean, are they counting ostensibly? It's like 4 plants for personal home grow.
Right. You can have 4 plants that are flowering. Your non-flowering plants do not count. You can have an unlimited number of non-flowering plants, but each household can only legally have 4 plants. Now I can tell you, here in Portland, the police are not enforcing that limit. And as long as you're not selling it, you don't have any problems here in Portland or in many other places here in Oregon. But
and let's help eliminate the black market. Encourage your neighbors to grow 4 plants, whether they use it or not.
Yeah, cannabis should be cheap and plentiful. And when we can grow hemp again without regard to its THC content, but to grow the most productive seed varieties, and this is our flame of freedom here, It is hemp seed oil, and that's why it's illegal, really. It has nothing to do with drugs. Drugs are a smokescreen. It's really about hemp seed oil as a fuel. And you can take this, pour it right into any diesel engine, turn the key, and drive in it. And it was the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, fascist sons of a bitches who gave us the whole name marijuana based on anti-Hispanic racism. And it was about controlling the energy market and pushing farmers out of being able to supply hemp, which is 5 times more productive than any other seed oil crop.
Yeah, exactly. But they shouldn't be counting males, though, either, right?
No, they don't. They don't.
Okay. So they're not, even a flowering male is not counted as part of the 4 limit?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Especially
But it's
for
going
home
to
growing,
seed your
like
crop if you have a male.
Yeah.
And it might seed your neighbors. I know a good friend of mine who knows how to grow pretty well had his 4 plants seeded by some neighbors who didn't know what they were doing.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for your time. Take care, you guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
I want to tell our audience out there, you can hear that little beep, beep, beep. Well, that's because we have a temporary phone line that was only supposed to be there for a couple of weeks, but somehow it's been there for months. And we went for about 3 months without phone lines, which was difficult. But we do have this, so when you hear that beep, beep, someone is trying to call in on that line. And so the best time to call is right after the last caller hangs up. So there's a little tip for you. Now, I went down to Colombia last year in 2016, and then I went back. I was supposed to meet Clay at the Expo MediWeed that happened last month, but a couple of my friends, Don Wirtschafter of initially the Ohio Hempery, a retired Ohio attorney who owned a hemp company and used to be my biggest hemp paper customer back in the early 1990s. He is also a speaker and collects antique medical marijuana containers. And a friend from Argentina, Mike Bafari, were down there, and Jorge Cervantes was down there at this year's. And Don just opened a museum, and Jorge did a little video about Mike and Don Wirtschafter, Mike Bafari of Argentina and Don Wirtschafter of Ohio. And I think we have that video ready to run. So let's roll that video.
Oye, my name is Jorge Cervantes. I am here in Torrijos, in Cauca, Colombia. And on top of a mountain, we're about 1,700 meters. We're about 2,000 meters here, I guess. That's about right. And this used to be coca for coca leaf growing area, coca plant growing area. And the Indians have changed here. It's a big indigenous zone. This is where the FARC, the revolutionary group, used to dominate. It's got a very bloody history. And now we've got a whole different trip going on here. And we've got a couple of guys here we have one from the United States, one from Argentina, and everybody else here is a local. Venga, ok. Pues me voy a hablar inglés porque este video es en inglés. Oye, Donnie, could you please tell me a little bit about how you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you started this and how you came here?
I'm Donnie Wirtschafter, and Miguel Bifari and I explored South America for a few years trying to figure out where we would do a project here. And this gets to be our fun. We've come here trying to be our own little personal Peace Corps. At the end of the FARC war, much work is needed to bring peace to this valley. These farmers in the settlement of the FARC war were promised that they could continue their crops, and the government has not enabled that yet, and we're here as technical representatives, technical advisors to the association that Marino and Victor and Mary Bell are members of, and we're teaching them better cultivation practices and especially better harvesting and drying and processing practices. It's been an incredible stay here in this village. We've been here almost a year, and it's been nothing but welcoming and lots of good learning.
Well, you know, it's really funny because, actually kind of tragically funny, because everybody outside this area, or outside especially in the United States and even in Spain and Europe, have a real bad opinion, and it's quite safe here. you know, you've got your little things, but the main revolutionary groups are gone. There's still a few things, but the indigenous people here have really done a good job to help change the world, be self-sufficient, and it's great. It's really a great thing.
That's what we need to do, is spread that message. It's, you know, the curtain is down and this place is now open and it's unspoiled. It's a culture of people that are left from society and have not been spoiled by the greed and corruption of the Western culture. And you know, my favorite example, we just discovered the other day, they have no idea who the Beatles or the Rolling Stones are. And you know, that's just an example. None of these concepts of ours, you know, backbiting and all that, it's not there. These are incredibly kind and wonderful people. And I feel as long as I'm here within the indigenous culture, I'm totally and absolutely safe. And our local cabildo, our local guard, take good care of us.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I noticed this Torrevillo is a market town as well. So this kind of a central place for everybody to show up. There's still they're still growing coca plants around here. A lot of times you can see we've had, but this is really a new plant though. The cannabis here is just a new plant, and a few things about the new plant that are here is they don't grow very tall. They get to be about 1 meter tall for people that don't use meters. That's about 40 inches, and a very big plant. Here's one that's just been harvested here, and let me zoom in just a little bit here, and we can see it. I don't have a great close-up on my lens here or on my camera, but you can see this. This is quite nice. It's sun-grown and all organic. There's nothing that's even close to a chemical around here. That's one of the things that you see in a lot of other places, commercial grows. They tend to use a lot of chemicals. But here, it's all natural. In fact, we just had lunch and that was so great. Everything was organic. You can't get better food anywhere else in the world. I mean, it was just amazing. And Mike from Mike talks great English. This video will be in English. We'll do another one in Spanish. Cool. Okay, Mike, could you tell us a little bit about how you got here? You were hanging out with Donnie.
Yeah, we've been doing things with Donnie all over South America. We've been in several places collaborating with Donnie. He's one of the heroes of the movement, though. And yeah, we end up here in Torrevillo. I knew the place from before, but we came like 1 year ago. And it's been really a great experience to help the campesinos, what he said about changing the practices. Besides, we had these, you know, number of government meetings, and we're trying to put these crops on the legal path.
So that's wonderful. So you're doing the work like for example, the Peace Corps tried to do in America, but you're not politicizing anything. You're just
we're not.
Just helping
we're
everybody.
Peace. Yeah, these people suffer a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And they've been through a war here, and so now they deserve to make a living with this crop. I mean, this is not their fault that there's thousands and thousands of operations going on, because it ends up being a good profit, a good cash crop for the campesinos.
It's very important. Everybody's got to make a living. Yeah. I'm going to end this video. Thank you so much. And I'm going to end this video with kind of a panorama here. The scenery is just amazing. It's incredible. We're here in this is Los Andes, no? The Andes Mountains.
The Andes, there you go.
The Andes?
That direction.
Okay.
You can see why this is such a strategic town, because you had to go up that road that you came up to get to here. From here you can go in 5 different directions into the mountains. And this is why this was so fought over. And the army ended up occupying that peak up there and having a base there that they could shell the opposition with. And,
this was a complete war scenario.
Yeah. Even the village has been repaired immensely in the last year.
Taken over like 12 times.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, well, I'm glad things are changing. I'm sure everybody else is here too, quite happy. Okay, well, this is Jorge Cervantes. I'm signing off. We'll see you guys in the Spanish video.
All right, well, that's Jorge Cervantes, a famous author who's originally from here in Portland, an old friend of mine for about 35 years. And I got to hang out with him down in Medellin just last month, and he was touring our friends' fields. In fact, Clay was working with Don and Mike Bafari there and Mauricio, the Native American man there, in helping the local indigenous people learn about medical marijuana and how to help medical patients there. And so that is what he was doing. And so he is in jail. And you can find out more by going to freeclay.org. That's freeclay.org. Or on Facebook, Free Clay Pierce. That's Pierce. Pierce. Or you can go to our website, which is crrh.org. So there's a little alphabet soup for you. We've had some people standing by on the phone. Let's go ahead and take a phone call. Welcome to the show. Nope, they're gone. They waited too long. That's what I'm told. Well, now's your chance to call in at 503-673-8579. That's 503-673-8579. So you talked to Clay about going to Colombia. He was just incredibly happy about that, wasn't he?
He was just jazzed. I mean, to him, that was paradise found.
Yeah.
You know, the people were the kind of people he wanted to pretty much spend the rest of his life with and possibly retire, live there.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of a dream come true for him. And you know, unfortunate circumstance that he kind of got stuck between a rock and a hard place just trying to get there.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we can get him, you know, whatever help that we can get through to him. And
well, you saw the television, you see the newspaper articles.
Yeah.
We did raise a lot of awareness about his case. But like I said, there are people there that regularly get 5 to 10 years for that small amount of cannabis.
I'm praying we can just get him home.
Yeah, I think he wants to go on to Colombia, really. So I hope he can get to Colombia where he wants to be. You know,
I hope he can fulfill that dream and not be stuck there in this torturous, barbaric prison, you know, for an unending amount of time.
Me too. He's trying. He's standing in there. We can't really communicate much with him there. Yeah. But, you know...
that's not right either.
No, it isn't.
It's inhumane.
Yep. Well, again, if you have a medical condition, you're anywhere in the U.S. of A., and you need help finding a doctor who can help you get medical marijuana, we have a physician referral service. You can call us at this number that just popped up on your screen or will pop up on your screen. There it is, 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. If you or a loved one or someone in your family needs that, then you can call 503-235-4606. And we'll be happy to help you.
We've helped a lot of people, you know. There are a lot of folks that don't realize that that's an option and a very good option for treatment in many circumstances. So,
I guess we do have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Thank you so much for all you do.
You're very welcome. Thanks for calling.
And tell John I really like his music. I wish he'd call me sometime because I'd be making some edibles for him if he'd like.
That's Charlie.
He says yes.
I can hear Charlie.
Great, sweet. You know, I wouldn't come down because the weather's nasty and my ride didn't show up, so I'm just watching on TV.
All right, on cable.
And supporting y'all. And I feel bad about Clay.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible what he's going through. But, you know, I went down there and went and saw him anyway, and we had that press conference, which was incredibly successful in terms of helping, raise awareness about his case. Did you see the first video clip we had with him on there?
I did, yes.
So, and then the newspaper articles. That was actually the second set of newspaper articles. One of those newspapers had run an article, and there are about 5 different websites. And I'm invited to go back in March and speak at the university and the law school about cannabis and medical marijuana. So I'm going to do that. Hopefully Clay will be out by then, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, I wrote a letter, but then I was just too lazy to come down, so
I took
it
all
was
these
my
letters
bad.
and I gave them to his attorney, and hopefully his attorney will be able to at least show them to him. But they will not. I couldn't show them to him. They won't allow him to have any letters. He can't get letters, and they only have one book in there, and it is the Bible, and it's in Spanish. And he says they're constantly doing religious worship and singing songs and clapping hands and in Spanish, and he has to sit there, and if he moves, he's punished.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, wow, about them growing that that pot looked really good. That's down in Colombia. I'm going, wow.
Yeah.
I wish I could
and
grow
that's
that
where
one.
Clay was
Okay.
working with Mike and Don and Mauricio and the NASA indigenous people there. He loved it. He would just seem like he was, living the dream. Well, anyway, I want to thank you for calling. We're down to about a minute and a half.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul. You have a good evening. Goodbye.
You. Yeah, I'm invited to go back to that Expo MediWeed next year in November in Colombia. I have a big speaking schedule. We are going to have the Hemp Environmental Conference, the second one. We did the first one in Kyoto, Japan in 2016, and next July we'll have one in Debian. My French pronunciations are bad, but it's Debian, Quebec, and that's coming up on in July of next year at the Hemp Environmental Forum. Last year we had the First Lady of Japan at that. But we're out of time. I want to thank you, Dana, for coming in on short notice and co-hosting the show again. I want to thank you, viewers. I want to thank John, thank our control room, and wish you a happy holidays and a merry hempy new year. And tune in next week and help us restore hemp at freeclaypierce.org.
Now the next time that you fall in love, just appreciate the sun above. 'Cause the sun is shining on and on. Open up your eyes before it's gone. Whoa, let's make the best of it now. Whoa, let's make the best of it